since this is a big point of contention right now in the community, I thought to rank each and every collab from worst to best. My way of ranking will be from 3 different points. 1, quality of characters. 2, what the collab itself brought to the table outside of the characters, and maybe including the characters, but not necessarily what the units do, just by summoning on the banner. And 3, how annoying the meta was following the banner. Not as big of a point as the other 2, because annoying metas will happen all the time, but I thought it would also be relevant to bring it up, because some of these bad boys did do that. So if you want to make your own list in the comments, I would encourage. I believe almost nobody is going to have the exact same list, because it's 10 different collabs we've had so far. And yes, I am separating the return of a collab from the original inception of it. So I'm ranking, for example, the first and second slime collabs differently. I will not be ranking them as the same, because they were not the same thing. The return of slime is not the exact same in terms of events and whatever we got compared to the first slime, for example. So I'm starting from worst and going to best, and again, y'all let me know what you think. I think that the worst is going to be universal. Obviously, with Stranger Things, this was the worst collab we've ever got for several reasons. 1, why? No, everyone was scratching their heads. People were making fun of Grand Cross. People that don't play Grand Cross were making fun of Grand Cross for having this collab. It was really bad at the time, if you don't remember. It was not a great time. And most of the characters were dog shit. That's the thing that like makes me scratch my head the most, because these characters are so exclusive. They have to be good. Will was a joke. Mike was a joke. 2 premium summonable characters were jokes. And then we had Jim, which was the free character, which was the best character, right? He was kind of funny because he has a shotgun, but that's essentially it. But he wasn't really all that good, aside for like having fun of showcases, which I appreciate. Then there was 11, which seemed good and fell off in like 2 weeks. In terms of characters, probably the worst collab ever. No, actually no. In terms of characters, not the worst collab ever, because slime was a thing. We'll get there at one point. But events weren't amazing at the time. I mean, we're very generic, and I mean, it didn't really shake up the meta because the characters were irrelevant in 2 weeks, or the one character that was relevant for 2 weeks became irrelevant very quick anyways. Next one will be kind of obvious for a majority, but it is definitely Mushoku Tensei. It is not the units are horrible like Stranger Things. A lot of people were saying that the units were like Stranger Things, but no. It is just the most unhyped collab ever. At least Stranger Things had people talking about it. Literally no one cares about this. It is the most unhyped I've ever seen a collab ever. More unhyped the Shield Hero, which was pretty unhyped. Again, Stranger Things was weird, but at least people were talking about it. This one, majority of people didn't even like know the IP or cared about it. Some people hate the IP. There are people that like it, but then they saw the units and weren't all that excited because anniversary is coming up very soon. Horribly timed. Speedy is someone my friend was talking to. He likes the IP. He's a big fan, and he was like, "This is terrible timing. They should have dropped it like when season 2 is coming out for hype, right?" Horribly timed collab. If they waited for season 2, it would be more hype, which is coming in a few months. Don't know what they were thinking with this. The units aren't horrible, honestly. I mean, Rudy is the main character. The more I use him, the more I hate using him, to be honest. But she's good. I like using her, and Roxy is all right. She doesn't bring that much. There was no story because I guess making 4 characters was enough work for the 3 developers. And the only really great thing about this one is that they gave 4 free multis. Other than that, the whole rest of the collab is kind of mid. Next up, I think, will be the one people are going to disagree with, but I don't think you have reason if you disagree. I think the 8th worst collab, or 3rd worst collab, in the 8th position, 8th best, 3rd worst, is Original Slime. If you disagree, it's for nostalgia reasons. Because this collab brought 3 absolute dogshit characters, 1 SR, which was alright, but 3 absolute dogshit characters, right? The good thing on JP was that you got a ticket that had a random chance of being one of the three. So if you didn't want Benimaru, you had a chance of getting someone else. But on global, it was just Benimaru. But it doesn't matter because he was dog shit anyways. The characters were horrible. This was like essentially right after the game came out. And even then, even right after the game came out, the characters were already bad. So having a collab with exclusive characters that didn't return for years, right? These characters did not return for years. Feeling pressure to someone for a collab and the characters being just box, and they weren't even box CC because the concept of box CC wasn't even a thing for a while after this collab was already done for. So I think that if you disagree, it's for nostalgia because this collab was not great. The story part of it was pretty decent, I think. Again, there was a story at the very least, and it was completely meta irrelevant in any and every way because the units were garbage. And that's why it's so low. Just the quality of characters just was negative. The quality was negative. It was literally just for rarity. But I mean, the same cannot be said for Shield Hero, which I think is the next one up. As much as I absolutely love the characters from Shield Hero, or I love Naofumi, more specifically, it was very unhype. It's an IP that people don't really care about. People were disappointed. People really want Overlord or like Konosuba, and getting these IPs that people don't really care about is a little frustrating for a lot of players that are, you know, oh, what's going to be the next collab? Collabs are hype, but not when it's an IP people don't really care about. In terms of units, people heavily misjudge these characters. Naofumi is still really good, and so is Philo. Philo is still stupid good. I don't know why people have the misconception that the characters from this collab were bad, but they weren't. The biggest problem I have was, again, no story and nothing new. It didn't really bring anything new to the table. It was another collab that was just, oh, here's a collab. Okay, collab is done. Let's move on. There was not much going on. And the reason for it is because I think the reason for it is this was the first collab after Holy Relics. Not first return collab, but the first new collab. So the characters that came out were already thought with Holy Relics in mind. And I think that is a problem plaguing the game currently. When a new character comes out, they should not have Holy Relics because the relic, it should be a buff to the already existing character. But how characters come out today, especially if they're collab characters, mostly if they are collab characters, because they have to come out with the Holy Relic because they don't have opportunity to release a relic after the fact. They are made with the relic in mind. So after this character has released, and okay, they're good right now, they will never have a boost ever again. Ever. They already have their relic. And the relic was created in mind with what the character does. And I think that plagues the game for collabs that are current and to come. That also plagues for the current collab that's going on right now, Mushoku Tensei. But I think that's why the characters looked so mid. And, you know, they weren't. They were very good. They didn't really shake up the meta except Philo. Philo made the unknown one-turn kind of meta. But you don't see it all too often because you need to have a very high CC for that. It was alright. It was just very unhype. Next one, I honestly don't know, given the most recent pushback for it, how people feel about it. But I think in number 6 from best to worst, or number 4 from worst to best, is Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan is not lower because I think it was very hype. And I don't think that, I know that actually. It was very hype. The Attack on Titan is a massive IP, and the characters were pretty cool. It was the first transformation unit in the game. The reason why it's so low though, you know, it's because the units sucked. I mean, the units weren't good at all. It was the second collab we've ever had, and it kind of made a point that collab characters were more for collection than for actual usability. Because the first collab, Slime, had horrible characters. The second collab, Attack on Titan, had mid characters. So it was more like, okay, if you're summoning for a collab character, it's not because they're good. Only after the next one, we start seeing characters, or they start making good characters for collabs. But with this one, they were like, okay, transformation character, that's super cool, super hype. It was really hype. Wasn't good though. It was kind of ass. So Could have been a better collab if the characters were just better. It had really cool stuff. It had the Titan bosses. It brought a lot of stuff to the table. It's just the characters sucked. And when the characters suck, I cannot rate them much higher. I was gonna put them high because of the hype and the other stuff that was brought with the collab, but units just sucked. The next collab on the list, I was gonna put in second place. But I rethought of it, and now it's actually in 5th place. But it could be higher, depending on how you see it. So, the return of KOF brought a stupid good character, Terry, and a not so good character, Yori. Terry was plaguing the meta for a long time. So my third point of view, how much the meta sucked after, kind of kicks in. But the collab itself was revolutionary because it was the first collab after Holy Relics were introduced. And what they did was every single returning character got a Holy Relic for free. At the time, Holy Relics were very exclusive. You had to do Bird, and Bird was stupid hard. So when we got, the news that the relics were going to be insanely easily accessible, and all of the old characters were getting it, that was really cool. They could have easily not given them relics, because like, okay, some for the new characters, bitch. If you have the old characters, well, sucks to suck. But no, that would be the usual Marvel thing to do. But no, they were like, okay, let's buff these old characters. And Kyo, for example, which had not been meta for a while, became meta again. So I think the return of KOF was a great collab. And starting here, I think all the collabs are great. It was a great collab, and the only point to why it's not so high is because all of the events were reused. All of them. All of the events were reused. They reused the fighting event that they had, which was super long. They could have easily made the event better by making it shorter. It was insanely long. Rugal final boss was reused and stuff like that. Could have been higher if they put a little more effort. But in terms of characters, Terry was absolutely amazing for the time. Again, Yori kind of sucked, so half of the new character banners sucked. Is what it is, but he does look cool, so I'll give him that. Might rank higher on other people's lists, honestly, I can see it. But 5th place. In the 4th place for me is the original ReZero. Now, I might be a little biased, because I actually really like ReZero. When we got ReZero collab, it was very hype. Because, honestly, I don't know why, but everyone likes ReZero. And if you don't like ReZero, alright. But most people like ReZero. It's super mainstream, super basic, super weeby. Everyone likes it. It was very hype, and the characters were generally good, except Beatrice. Ram was really, really good. She kind of fell off on PvP very fast, but her Amplify was really nice. Emilia was cancer. So that pegs the collab, meta, post-collab meta tier for me a little bit lower because of how aged she was. But she was very powerful, so that ranks high. Ram, the free character, still used. She's still used. Now, she's worse than Anashi right now because of his relic, but still used. It's kind of crazy. She was the free character. Beatrice sucked, but she was kind of a meme. I think ReZero brought a lot to the table. It was the first collab after KOF, which is, I'll just say, KOF is next on the list as number 3, and I'll explain more about why KOF to me ranks higher than ReZero, even though personally I don't give a shit about KOF. I've never played a King of Fighters game, and I do give a shit about ReZero. I think ReZero's good as an anime. But let me just jump into KOF. KOF was huge because it was the first collab where characters were good. Again, when we had Slime, it was like, they suck, these are for collection purposes. We had Attack on Titan. These are mid, these are for collection purposes. When KOF came out, and Kyo was applying Ignite to all the enemies, Rugal was fully wiping everyone. This bitch was removing Alt Gauge from all Alt Rush teams, and Mai was hot. It was actually a collab that was really worth pulling for, not just for collection. The characters were actually good. And there was so much that came with the collab. A new final boss. We haven't had a new final boss for a collab since then. Did you notice that? Or at least I remember. Maybe there were, and it was so unmemorable that I don't even remember it was. But it was for this one. They brought a final boss, which is much cooler than these other bosses. The other bosses that you can just auto 3 times a day and be done, final bosses are way cooler. And I mean, final bosses actually meant something back in the day. It was a great collab. And it was weird, the release for Global and JP. On Global, people did not like how it was handled because the collab was in the same banner as Green Halloween Galfer, which was the best unit in the game at the time. But I thought, wow, Global got you summoned for 4 new characters, 3 of them which are very good, especially Kia with Rugal. And then also Halloween Galfer. What a deal that banner was. You couldn't pick Halloween Galfer. I don't think you could pick him, but if you pulled him randomly from the banner because he was featured, I thought that was a great deal. So I think KOF was a great collab, as much as I do not care. I do not care about the IP. I don't ever play the King of Fighters game. I thought it was a great collab in terms of the content and what it brought. Again, ReZero was pure hype for me. And the community, it was very big. Everyone was hyped. But I think KOF snatches that second or third place, sorry, because of that. Now, there are only 2 options left, so you can think already who is going to be number 1, who's going to be number 2. But in my opinion, I think the second best collab we've ever got was Return of ReZero. Again, ReZero was hype. And the characters were absolutely godlike. Reinhardt, literal best unit in the game. Right? Stupid powerful. Echidna, still godly. Reinhardt kind of fell off. Now, he kind of fell off. But Echidna is still godly. That's how good she was. Stupid, amazing support unit that doubled as a DPS if you wanted to. Still does. She still does. It's been quite a while since this collab, you know? And she's still stupid good. And again, ReZero was actually popular. And, you know, with the Holy Relics for the old characters. Beatrice, it was like a good idea with the relic, but not good enough, unfortunately. Rem, again, but the other Rem, absolutely amazing Holy Relic for PvE, became like an insane damage dealer. And Emilia, thank God, she got a shit relic. It would have been worse if she got a good relic. Trust me, it would have been way worse. Because imagine, Reinhardt was already kind of plaguing the meta a little bit. I think that the post-meta of Reinhardt was not as bad as the post-meta of Terry. In my opinion, you may disagree. You may disagree. But I thought you could still use other stuff to fight against Reinhardt. With Terry, it was like abysmal fighting against Terry because of the stat lower. But Reinhardt was really fun to use, and so was Echidna. And was hype. In my opinion, it was the second best collab ever. The characters were hype. The events were good. They just returned essentially the old events from ReZero, but the events were good. Again, a little more effort on the events would have been nice. But I thought it was pretty good. Honestly, I don't see how you cannot think that Return of Slime was the best collab ever. I cannot see it. Rimuru was absurd. And he wasn't absurd in a way where he was impossible to play against. He was just very strong. And you could still play against him. It was not like Reinhardt. It was not like Terry. He was a strong, meta character that wasn't absurdly annoying to face. I think that that is a great aspect. Shuna was decent. I wasn't really my kind of character, but a lot of top players used her. So she was really good. But the best thing about this collab was buffing old characters. And I am a sucker for that. If you know me, I am a big sucker for buffing old characters. Blue Rimuru kind of got the last end of the straw here, but he still got buffed, and he became actually usable. These 3 units were dog shit on launch. 3 years before this collab, essentially. It was like almost 3 years. After 3 years, they got buffed to being actually decent. Milim was an amazing demonic beast character for Deer, the current demonic beast at the time. Imagine that. Imagine that. Benimaru was a super fun character to use. Again, not amazing, but super fun to use. I got a lot of I got a lot of good time running these characters. The old characters, not just the new ones. Not just the new Rimuru, but also the old characters. And I extremely value that. They not only got Holy Relics, they could have just slapped them with Holy Relics and call it a day, like they did for the KOF and ReZero characters. They easily could have done that. I mean, the ReZero was after Slime, but like they did with KOF characters. The KOF characters just got their relics, but you know, the KOF characters were already almost usable, like Kyo. If Kyo also got a buff to his stats, at the time would have been too much. Now, please, please buff these stats. But, you know, at the time, it would have been too much. But these characters did need a buff in stats. They did need a buff in cards. These cards sucked, you know? And that's what they did. They got buffed. They got relics. I think, in my opinion, this was the biggest double collab ever. So, let me know if you disagree. But I made my point, and Rimuru is still one of... He probably is my favorite collab character ever. Just the way he's designed is just fun. He is a moderately tanky, big-time DPS. Not anymore, right? He's been power crept. It's been over a year, right? It's been over a year. So obviously he's been power crept. But at the time, extremely fun character and an IP people cared about, and it was super hype. I didn't even mention the hype. I was just talking about how good the things were that they brought to the table. Wasn't even mentioning the hype. It was extremely hype, bringing back the first collab we've ever had, and it's an IP people love. People love Slime. So, yeah, that's my list. Let me know yours.